Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So, text it. Ya evam santam atmanam.
Ya evam santam atmanam.
Atmastham Veda Purusha.
Atmastham
Veda Purusha.
Najyate Prakristhopi.
Najyate
Prakrististhopi.
Gunai sa mayi sthita.
Tadgunai
Tadgunesa Mayi Sthita.
Yes. Would someone like to read?
I'll read, Prabhuji.
You can read, Prabhuji.
Yes, please.
Read, Mataji. Okay.
हाँ जी आप पढ़ लीजिए.
Translation. Although within the material nature, one who is thus situated in full knowledge of Paramatma and Atma is never affected by the modes of material nature, for he is always situated in my transcendental loving service. Purport. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears in this material world, he is not affected by modes of material nature. Similarly, those who are always connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though they be within this material body or the material world, are not affected by material qualities. That is explained very nicely in Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Mamcha yo vibhacherna bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samityeta brahma bhuya kalpate. One who is unflinchingly engaged in the devotional service of the Lord surpasses the material qualities and attains Brahman realization. In this connection, Srila Rupa Goswami says that if a person is always engaged in the service of Lord with his body, words, and mind, he is to be considered liberated, although living in the material world. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Although within material nature, one who is thus situated in full knowledge of Paramatma and Atma is never affected by the modes of material nature. For he is always situated in my transcendental loving service. So, the Prabhupada gives this example of jailer and jail. The jailer also goes to jail, the prisoner also. But the prisoner is a prisoner. I mean, he is bound by the prison laws, but the jailer is independent. He sets the prison. Likewise, a pure devotee of the Lord, who's always engaged in devotional service, is independent of material nature, even though he may be present within it. So, like Krishna says, like Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattva tyaktva deham punarjanmaneti mamiti suvarjuna. But one who understands my transcendental appearance and activities is immediately freed from material nature. He comes back to me after giving up this body. So one who is engaged in devotional service of the Lord is situated on the platform of liberation. Like once Prabhupada, who is a pure devotee? How do you identify a pure devotee? So Prabhupada explained that if you are acting on the platform of pure devotion, you are a pure devotee. Pure devotee doesn't, yes, certainly pure devotee means someone who is constantly remembering the Lord, who's unaffected by material nature. But it also means someone who acts on the platform of pure devotion. One who dedicates his mind, words, and body to the Supreme Lord. Body, words, mind, he's constantly working only for the Supreme Lord. In spite of the fact that he is within the material nature, he is considered to be a pure soul. That means he is beyond the purview of material nature. So, for instance, we see so many living entities who are within this material world who are working for their own sense gratification. Atmendriya priti vancha tare kahe kaam. Krishnendriya priti vancha tare premana. So, one who works only for his own sense gratification, that is to be considered a bound soul, a baddha jiva. But one who is working only for the pleasure of Krishna, even though he may still be in the material nature, is to be considered a pure soul. So Prabhupada always, like Prabhupada said, that anyone who's constantly engaged in following the instructions of the spiritual master is to be considered a pure devotee. He's on that same platform, even though he may not be getting the symptoms of bhav or prem, but same platform, because he's acting on the same platform. So here the word is very significant. One who is unflinchingly engaged in devotional service. Unflinchingly. Mamyo vicharena, mamayo vicharena, bhakti yogena sevate. One who is constantly engaged without getting distracted. So, like in the second chapter also, we have seen that desires are constantly flowing. So, samudram apa pravishanti yadvat. So, like the water entering into ocean. Tatta tad kamayam pravishanti sarve. So, like that, lusty desires are entering into every living entity. So, the desires cannot be stopped because we are in a material body. This is the nature of material body to enjoy. The eyes will want to see, the ears want to hear, the tongue wants to speak and taste, the skin wants to touch. So, this is the nature of the material body. You know, like even in biology, we know that brain has certain functions. Like if you have some pleasurable sensation, different areas of the brain light up. So we can see in this way that the human body itself is designed for sense gratification. But one who is able to tolerate the urges of the senses and still engage in devotional service, he is to be considered a pure devotee. He is considered a saintly soul. So yes, so if you want to be on the platform of pure devotion, constantly engage in devotional service. Do not, do not try to waste trying to fulfill personal obligations. And especially, like we have seen previously in the Bhagavatam also, first canto, that dharmasya apavargasya nartho arthaya kalpate, that the process of religion should never be used for personal gain. So in this way, if you are constantly acting on the platform of pure devotion, you are in pure devotion. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments here?
प्रभु जी थोड़ा सा ये आ रहा है with the mind, body, कहाँ गया? With the body, mind and words. Can you please a little bit elaborate on body, mind and words?
So, what is that verse? Maharaj Ambarish, Vaikuntha Gunanu Varnane. So he used his tongue and used his body in embracing the devotees of the Lord, and he used all his faculties in service of the Supreme Lord. Mind is constantly desiring, thinking, can think for the Supreme Lord. We are planning so many things every day. What will happen to me? What will happen to my wife? What will happen to my husband? What will happen to father, mother, son, daughter? Where will I invest? Planning like this all the time. But if we can think the same way for Krishna, what can I do for Krishna? Should I preach? Should I cook? Should I sing? Should I decorate deities? What I can do for Krishna? If you start thinking like this, then you can use your mind in the service of Krishna also. How to preach. Such and such person is difficult, they don't understand. How should I present this topic? Mind, words, intelligence, everything can be used in service of Krishna.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Yes. So, any other questions or comments? Let's move on. Text number 9. Yah swadharmena mam nityam.
Yah swadharmena mam nityam.
Nirashihi shraddhayanvita.
Nirashihi
Shraddhayanvita.
Bhajate shanakaistasya.
Shanakastasya.
Manorajan prasidati.
Manorajan
prasidati.
Yes. Would someone like
Hare
to
Krishna Prabhuji. पढ़िए प्रभुजी. Yeah, Prabhuji, please continue.
Yes, please, Shaman.
Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu continued, mind your King Prithu, when one situated in his occupational duty engages in my loving service without without motive for material gain, he gradually becomes very satisfied with it. Perfect. This verse is also confirmed by the Vishnu Purana. Occupational duty are known as Varnashrama Dharma and apply to the fourth division of material and spiritual life, namely Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaisya, and Shudra, and Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Banaprastha, and Sannyas. If one works according to the Varnashrama Dharma system and does not desire fruitive result, he gets satisfaction gradually. Discharging one's occupational duty as a means of rendering devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life. Bhagavad Gita confirms this as a process of karma yoga. In other words, we should act only for the satisfaction and service of the Lord. Otherwise, we will be entangled by the resultant actions. Everyone is situated in his occupational duty, but the purpose of material occupations should not be material gain. Rather, everyone should offer the results of his occupational activities. A Brahmana especially should execute his occupational duties not for material gain, but to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Kshatriya, Vaisya, and Shudra should work in a similar way. In this material world, everyone is engaged in various professional and occupational duties, but the purpose of such activities should be please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Devotional service is very simple, and anyone can adapt it. Let one remain what he is. He did only install the deity of the Supreme Lord in his house. The deity may be Radha Krishna or Lakshmi Narayana. There are many forms of the Lord. In this way, a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra can worship the deity with the result of his honest labor. Regardless of one's occupational duty, one should adopt the devotional means of hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, offering everything to the Lord and engage in his service. In this way, one can very easily engage himself in the service of the Lord. When the Lord is pleased with one's service, one's mission is in life is fulfilled. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Dandhu. Very interesting verse this one is. Yaya swadharmena mama nityam nirashi shraddhayanvita bhajata tasya manorajan prasidati. So by performing one's occupational duty without material motive for material gain, one gradually becomes satisfied within. So very interesting. So this is actually directly what we have read in the Bhagavad Gita also. So Chaturvarnya Maya system Guna Prabhagasha is saying. So in the third chapter of Gita, Krishna says, Karma Brahmod Bhavam Vidhi Mahakshara Samudbhavam Tasmat Sarvagama Nityam Yagya Pratishtitam. Regulated activities are prescribed in the Vedas, and the Vedas are directed to the personality of Godhead. Consequently, the all-pervading transcendence is eternally situated in acts of sacrifice. See, Krishna says, Vedanta Krit Vichaham, I am the compiler of Vedas. Vedic knowledge is meant to liberate from material conditioning. See, every living entity in this material world every living entity within this material world is here because of past conditioning. So every living entity has come here because of his past conditioning. because of the three modes of nature. So one can attain liberation only when one becomes free from this. So the word used here is Shanakayastasya, Bhajate Shanakayastasya Mano Rajan Prasidati. Gradually. Shanakaya means slowly, slowly. So we see in the 6th chapter of Gita, 25th verse also, Shanay Shanayar Uparamed Grihitaya Atma Samstham Manah Krita Na Kinchid Api Chintayet. Gradually, step by step, with full conviction, one should become entranced by means of intelligence. And thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. So, Shanay Shanay, that means gradually, step by step. One cannot mind on Krishna directly. When one's mind is too much occupied with, Sut Graha Kshetra Sutapta Vitta, then one cannot think of Krishna directly. I mean, yesterday you are thinking about some girl and marriage, and now today suddenly you want to think of Krishna. That's impossible. So it has to happen very slowly. It has to happen gradually. So the process of Varnashram is gradual purification. So Varnashram makes allowance for sense gratification, but in a regulated manner. And in that regulated manner, we are constantly remembering the Supreme Lord. So that allows us to purify ourselves. If one does not follow the Vedic scriptures, so then one becomes sinful. Evam pravartitam chakram nanu vartayati aghayur indriyaramo moksivati. My dear Arjun, a man who does not follow this prescribed Vedic system of sacrifice certainly leads the life of sin. For a person delighting only in the senses lives in vain. So anybody who is only thinking of sense gratification is living a sinful life. Actually, if one indulges in sense gratification, even a little bit outside of the Vedic permissible limits, one is sinful. So one may say, Prabhuji, but I have a normal job, I have a wife, child, I have my car, I don't do anything. I'm not sinful. No, not like you. By default, you are sinful. You're not performing your Mangala Arati, performing Sandhya, you're not performing the Vedic rituals of taking bath and offering food to in Yajna and giving charity. You are living a life of sin. You may think by modern standards that you are living a sinless life, but according to the Vedic lens, you are sinful. So one has to be very, very particular. These rules and regulations are prescribed in all religions. Islam, Christianity, Judaism, every religion prescribes rules and regulations, and they have to be followed to avoid a life of sin. So everyone engages occupied duty by his past conditioning. So as Krishna says, Karmanev adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Karmanev adhikaraste, because you are already conditioned. Brahmana, Vaishya, Shudra, Kshatriya are conditioned. So you have a right to do your duty. No right to the fruit thereof, because the fruits are provided by Krishna. He only has right. So mak phal hetu bhur. So don't work for the fruits. Just work because you are conditioned. Offer everything else in sacrifice, and whatever you obtain in return, you should be satisfied with that. So Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, everyone should work in Devi Varnashram to please the Supreme Lord, to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then one will become completely satisfied. So Savayasham Paro Dharmo Yadhokshaje Apratihata Ahetuki Yayatma Suprasidati. That comes in the 11th canto, but here this is the purport that Srila Prabhupada is explaining. So one has to act because of one's conditioning, but if one surrenders the fruits to the Supreme and works exclusively for the Supreme, gradually one will come to the Supreme platform himself. Hare Krishna. Yes. Any questions or comments here? Okay, then we continue. Next 10. Pratiyakta Gunah Samyak
Yatya gunam sanmet
Darshano Vishadashaya
darshano
Darshano
vishadasya
Vishadayasha
Shantim Me Samavasthanam
Shantim Me
samavasthanam
Samavasthanam
Brahma Kaivalyam Ashnute.
Brahma
brahma
Kaivalyam
kaivalya
Ashrute.
Shrute.
Yes.
Mary Prabhu.
Yes, please.
Hare Krishna, Dhanvat Pradhan. Translation purport Sripad. When the heart is cleansed of all material contaminations, the devotee's mind becomes broader and transparent, and he can see things equally. At that stage of life, there is peace, and one is situated equally with me as Satchidanand Vigraha. Purport. The Mayavadi's concept of Kavalya and that of Vaishnava community is different. The Mayavadi thinks that as soon as one is free from all material contaminations, it must into the existence of the Supreme. The Vaishnava philosophers' conception is of Kavalya. It's different. He understands both his position and the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the uncontaminated condition, the living entity understands that he is the eternal survivor of the Supreme, and that is called Brahman, realization. The spiritual perfection of living entity, this report is very easily achieved. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, when one is engaged in the transitional loving service to Lord, is immediately situated on the transitional platform of Kavalya or Brahman. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, when the heart is cleansed of all material contamination, Pariyakta Guna Samyak, when the heart becomes free from the influence of the material modes, then one can think, well, then one is situated on the spiritual platform. Peace. That is Satchidanand Vigraha platform. Now, in the 6th chapter of Gita, Krishna again explains in the 27th verse. Prashanta manasam hyenam yoginam sukham uttamam upayati shanta rajasam brahma bhutam akalmasham. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest happiness. By virtue of his identity with Brahman, he is liberated. His mind is peaceful, his passions are quieted, and he is freed from sin. What is sin? Sin means to think of anything, to think of sense gratification. That is sin. Anything apart from Krishna is sin. So when one is completely cleansed of Rajoguna, Tamoguna, and even Sattoguna, then one is situated in transcendence. Then he can see things equally. Then there is peace and Shantim. So it becomes peace, Shant. Then one can see, one can associate equally with the Lord as Lord's associate. So that happens, that happens gradually. Bhajate Shanakais Tasya. By performing these regulative principles. So if one is a Grihastha, one need not leave home and go to the forest. Living as a Grihastha, one should obey all the rules and regulations of Grihastha ashram and constantly focus on the Supreme Lord. In the previous purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, regardless of one's occupational duty, one should adopt the devotional means of hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping, offering everything to the Lord and engaging in his service. In this way, one can very easily engage himself in the service of the Lord. So this is Kali Yug, Kalera Dosha Nidhe Rajan. So there is Dosha Nidhe, so there are no pure Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Brahmanas. So what should we do? This instruction is for Prithu Maharaj. But for us, the instruction is very clear. In whatever station you are situated, you continue this hearing chanting, Shravanam Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Dasyam Sakhyam Atma Nivedanam. So in this way, you will easily attain the Supreme Lord. Anyone can chant Hare Krishna, Hare Nam Eva Kevalam. Anyone can chant Hare Krishna. And anyone can offer some bhoga, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. Even a poor man can at least offer water to the Supreme Lord. Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. So these are simple activities one can perform. One can think of Krishna. Krishna says, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yudhya. Or in the 11th chapter, he says, therefore you should think of me, the two-handed form. So at least one can think of Krishna. So difficult. That is quite easy. So in this way, whatever state of being one is, one can easily attain the Supreme Lord. But the thing is that is defined by Krishna in the 26th verse of the Bhagavad Gita also. How should one do it? Now that's a practical question. How should one do it? So Krishna is explaining here in this verse, yato yato nischalati manashchanchalam asthiram tatastato niyam yaitat atmanya eva vasham nayet. From whatever and wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. So if your mind is wandering, you bring it back to Krishna. Engage in the service for Krishna. If you're cooking for Krishna, if you're speaking for Krishna, you're singing for Krishna, there is no way that your mind will go away from him. It will be easier to bring it back to Krishna. So in this way, anyone can focus on Krishna. One need not artificially try to, go to some place like Vrindavan or Barsana or some place and try to find Krishna. That will not happen. Wherever your mind, from wherever and whatever your mind is flickering, bring it back to Krishna. That is the way. Shana Shana is. So gradually, step by step. Do it step by step. Try to bring your mind back to Krishna. Okay. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments?
Prabhuji, one question or you can say comment where Prabhuji say this repo is very easily achieved. I don't understand. What does Prabhuji mean very easily achieved?
In the uncontaminated condition, the living entity understands that he is the eternal servitor of the Supreme, and that is called Brahman realization, the spiritual perfection of the living entity. This repo is very easily achieved. So this is the process, cleaning the heart of contamination. See, Mayavadis are also trying it, yogis are trying it, but they don't achieve it so easily. They don't achieve this repo because they have no idea of the Supreme. But a devotee begins from the idea of Krishna. So there's a fixed objective, you know where to go. The yogi, the Mayavadi, the Jnani, they are wandering from one objective to another. They have no clue what is the reality. So it becomes very difficult for them to focus on anything. Sometimes they achieve their objectives and then yet again they fail. But a devotee knows from the beginning what he has to do. Krishna says, Man manabhav mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. You are dear to me. Just think of me, worship me, offer your obeisances to me. And you will come to me because you are very dear to me. And he's promising, he says, I promise you. So when the objective is clear, you can overcome any obstacle with a little bit of determination. But if the objective is to be found, as in the case of yogis, jnanis, or even karmis, then there's a very long way to go. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanvan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. Very rare soul. They're wandering here and there. In one life, he performs karma, goes to serve. So we see, for example, Krishna says, Bahunam janmanamante jnanvan mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha.
True. So they are referring basically, Prabhupada is referring basically to the goal. Eventually, once we have the goal set, eventually we will get there. Because in the beginning, the process, understanding the process is easy. Prabhupada has laid it out very simply. But following it and then practicing it isn't that easy.
So that requires utsaha, dhairya and nischay. So that takes time. So one has to practice. That's why Krishna is saying Shanaya Shanaya. So, gradually, step by step. You can't do it all at once. Like tomorrow you can't become a pure devotee. But you have to do it step by step. So make sure that you are taking these steps.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, step by step, then, and you said means utsaha is very important. So means how this gradually utsaha will increase, means if we are not able to understand, or means after some time it may become boring, or means how the utsaha should be maintained or it should be increased, so that step by step we will be elevated.
So, look at it this way, bro, that Shanai, gradually, step by step. So, what does that mean really? So, today, if you are a brahmachari, you want to become a grahastha, so think about vanaprastha ashram. After vanaprastha, think of sannyas ashram. Try to become free from influence of material nature, material energy, step by step. Sadhana means as you continue your practice, you will get some realizations. It's not that bhakti means you are just doing something by as a rule and nothing is happening. You're seeing the influence of material nature reducing upon you. So
Yeah.
while you may not be ready to take sannyas today, but you can see that today you are more detached from the material nature as against say what you were 1 year ago or 2 years ago. Utsaha will come when you think intelligently. So you can see by extrapolation, you can feel, you can perceive that one day if you continue this way, you will achieve complete detachment from material nature. That will stop all your miseries. And gradually, as you go on after detachment, as you go on rendering devotional service, you will start obtaining, you'll start obtaining pleasure also in bhakti.
Right.
So in this way, one man is able to maintain enthusiasm. So enthusiasm is not some kind of wild, passionate thing that, I like watching IPL 2020. No, this enthusiasm comes from intelligence. We can see the change in ourselves, so we can perceive that what we have done is bringing results.
Yeah.
And if we continue, it will bring the complete result.
Yes, Prabhu. Okay, understood. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I think, Prabhuji, one more thing, that when we see the change that we are observing, but I think by the time it's time to observe the change, the next goal is ahead of us. I think we don't observe the change that much because we are so much into the next goal is even harder.
Oh, there are many goals, but we can see the changes.
Mhm.
So that motivates us. Like, you have cleared 3rd grade, now you want to go to 4th grade, and then 5th and 6th. So it's not that you clear the 3rd grade and you become happy there. Okay, now I am a graduate of 3rd standard. I don't need to proceed any further.
True.
So in this way, you keep on progressing. Now you have cleared the 2nd grade and the 3rd grade, so you are capable of clearing the 4th grade and the 5th grade also. That is utsaha.
Right.
But you need dhairya, you need patience. It will not happen overnight. That's why Krishna is saying Shanay Shanay.
True. It's
Prabhuji,
just the failure sometimes that makes utsaha go down.
Yes. So that's why we must maintain sadhu sang. So that when we have a setback, we can ask someone. Like today, Rahul Prabhu had shared in the morning that if you have a fall down, then you should regret and continue your practice. So I'm not saying that you should celebrate, say, no problem, apichet suduracharo bhajate maam. No. You should regret it. You should feel unhappy that you were trying to progress, but you have fallen down. So you should feel unhappy, but you should continue your practice. That Krishna will forgive, but I'll continue. I'll endeavor not to fall down again.
Ji. Thank you, Ji.
Or at least not to fall down in this way. I may fall down in some other way.
Yes, true. Thank you, Ji.
Prabhuji, next step of this Nishtha, Ruchi, and then the next will be Utsaha.
Nishtha, Ruchi, then that is Asakti.
Okay. Keshavan Prabhuji, once I asked him what we'll do if we feel something fall down. Then he said, punish yourself.
Yeah, of course. So punish yourself. Fast for a day, or don't let yourself, eat food without salt.
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Yes. So we continue. Text 11. Udasinam ivadhyaksham.
Udasinam ivadhyaksham.
Dravya jnana kriyatmanam.
Dravya jnana kriyatmanam.
Utastham imam atmanam.
कूटस्थम् इमम् आत्मानं
यो वेदाप्नोति शोभनम.
यो वेदाप्नोति शोभनम्.
Right, can I read, Prabhu?
Yes, please.
Translation. Anyone who knows that this material body made of the 5 gross elements, the sense organs, the working senses and the mind is simply supervised by the fixed soul is eligible to be liberated from material bondage. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This verse describes how one can become liberated from material bondage. The first point is that one must know that the soul is different from his body. The soul is called Dehi, or one who possesses the body, and the material body is called Deha, or the embodiment of the soul. The body is changing at every moment, but the soul is fixed. Therefore, the soul is called Kutastham. The change of body is enacted by the reactions of the 3 modes of nature. One who has understood the fixed position of the soul should not be disturbed by the incoming and outgoing interactions of the modes of material nature in the form of happiness and distress. In Bhagavad Gita also, Lord Krishna recommends that since happiness and distress come and go due to the interaction of the modes of nature on the body, one should not be disturbed by such external movements. Even though one is sometimes absorbed in such external movements, he has to learn to tolerate them. The living entity should be always indifferent to the action and the reaction of the external body. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that the body made of the gross physical elements, earth, water, fire, air, and sky, and the subtle elements, mind, intelligence, and ego, is completely different from the soul proper. One should therefore not be disturbed by the action and reaction of these 8 gross and subtle material elements. The practical process to attain this stage of indifference is to execute devotional service. Only one who constantly engages in devotional service 24 hours a day can be indifferent to the action and reaction of the external body. When a man is absorbed in a particular thought, he does not hear or see any external activities, even though they are enacted in his presence. Similarly, those who are fully absorbed in devotional service do not care what is going on with the external body. That status is samadhi. One who is actually situated in samadhi is understood to be a first-class yogi. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone who knows that this material body made of 5 gross elements, the sense organs and the working senses, and the mind is simply supervised by the fixed soul is eligible to be liberated from material bondage. See, what is the process of Ashtanga Yoga? Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi. So Yam and Niyam we follow, regulative principles, Yam and Niyam, regulative principles, Prasad, Mangal Arati, Kirtan, chanting. That's Yam and Niyam. What is Asan? So if we take an analogy of this Ashtanga Yoga process for Bhakti, what is Asan? Working for Krishna. In Asan, we are controlling the body and regulating the activities of the body. Once the bodily activities are regulated, then we go into Pranayam. We regulate the pranas, the vayus. Pranayam, we are regulating the different pranas flowing through the body, different vayus. Prana vayu, apan vayu, udan vayu, we are controlling these vayus. In this way, we are regulating the mind and the breathing. Then comes the mental aspect of it. Pratyahar, collecting all our thoughts together, withdrawing the thoughts from material nature. So naturally, we can see that Ashtanga Yoga is not practiced 7 o'clock in the morning. It is practiced 24 hours. It is practiced after becoming detached from material world physically. So Pratyahar means collecting the thoughts. Then comes Dharana, fixing the objective of the mind. In our case, Bhakti, Krishna's name, Krishna Nam, that is Dharana. Then comes Dhyan, complete meditation. So that is an advanced stage of yoga that is applicable to Bhakti also. And then finally comes Samadhi, or as Srila Prabhupada describes, merging into transcendence. That is becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. So in the first step, we try to understand that we are not this body. So when we collect our thoughts, when we go to the stage of Pratyahar, we are collecting our thoughts from bodily activities. We are trying to bring them down to a level where we become aware of the functioning of the bodily organs and also understanding that we are not regulating. Prakrite kriyamanani, that material nature is acting. So in the second chapter, Krishna has also said that, 15th verse, he explains appearance and disappearance of happiness and distress is just like the appearance and disappearance of heat and cold, summer and winter. So one should not become disturbed by them. When you are traveling in the sea, waves will come up and down, the boat will go, but should not become disturbed. A boat swain or one who is conducting the boat does not become disturbed. He simply, navigates the boat through the waves. So just like that, a yogi also tolerates the happiness and distress which come associated with this material body and the mind. In this way, the yogi is able to free himself from the influence of material nature. And then one is able to see how the material nature is acting as a part of this body, as becoming a part of this body. So this does not happen artificially. One has to think of Krishna all the time. When one gradually reaches that stage, that is called samadhi. Then one becomes completely freed from the influence of material nature, and one becomes engaged only in the service of Krishna, as we see the example of Maharaj Rishabdev as well as Jada Bharat. So this is first class yoga, and such a person is a first class yogi. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments?
Just one comment. Prabhupada is literally an artist when he writes. So how beautifully he's writing. The practical process is to attain this stage of indifference, is to execute devotional service. And then he says, one who constantly engages 24 hours. And then a small line he just draws to help us understand what do you mean by 24 hours. He said, when a man is observed in a particular thought, he does not hear or see any external activity. Even though they are enacted in his presence. Right? So normally we would question, oh, what do you mean by 24 hour? I can't do 24 hours. But here, Prabhupada clearly articulated what do we mean by 24 hour.
Yeah, so you see, this is samadhi, complete absorption in the objective. So when one is constantly thinking of Krishna, all the materialistic considerations become secondary. Then one becomes indifferent to happiness and distress of this material world. In due course of time, many things will come and go in our life. But a devotee does not become depressed by that. He simply goes on executing his devotional service. And when I say that, like, mind you, it's very dangerous, it's very difficult. When there is a personal tragedy or when there is some pain or something, everyone undergoes suffering. Even the pure devotees, they can also feel the pangs of material nature, but they are not disturbed by them. So that is samadhi, that we are not disturbed by that. We continue our activity, engaging in Krishna consciousness.
True, our today's state is we read a verse and we are thinking about the verse while something happens in that thought that we were thinking stays right there and something else come to the mind. So mind just keeps going back and forth. True.
Yeah, so Chanchalam hi mana Krishna. Mind is very restless. One has to control it at all times. Yes. So any other questions or comments here?
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
If the mind is wandering,
Hmm.
and you are trying to be in devotional service, then it is not samadhi, that means.
No, it is not samadhi at that stage. So that's why Krishna has given this process in the 6th chapter, that collect the mind from wherever it is wandering. Wherever and whatever it is wandering upon, one should collect and bring it back.
Bring it back. And then you hold it for a minute in samadhi, then again it starts wandering.
Yes. So for example, like when we are training some cadets or we are training some students, they are meant to concentrate. Like if there's a big exam going on, the student focuses on it. There may be a wedding going on outside, but he's focused on writing his answers. So in this way, he's not distracted. So when the objective becomes clear, when we are determined to achieve it, when we are motivated to achieve it, then we become fixed in trance. Then we are not distracted by anything else.
It comes with practice.
If we don't have complete faith in Krishna,
Yes.
then we become distracted.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hari.
That was in the offering explaining of this pranayama, so how we can do this pranayama bhakti yoga.
So pranayama means controlling the pranas, means controlling the breathing. So by constantly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, that is like pranayama.
Okay.
I mean, that's a very crude analogy, but that is pranayama, controlling the prana by remembering Krishna all the time.
Prabhuji,
Prabhuji,
one more thing.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, anytime means Prabhupada told any devotee that he's in perfect samadhi or something. Anyway.
Well, Prabhupada did not like to use these yogic terms, but he did use these kind of terms for Vishnujan Swami as well as Jayanand Prabhu. He did say that, Jayanand Prabhu, for him, he said, like, you are constantly absorbed in thinking of Krishna. So you were constantly absorbed in thinking of Krishna. So I'm confident that Krishna has accepted you back in Vaikuntha. So Srila Prabhupada did write that on the passing of Jayanand Prabhu. Likewise, he also appreciated the long kirtans of Vishnujan Swami. He said, you are constantly absorbed in thinking of Krishna. Your kirtans are very pleasing. So that is like saying the term, like that's using less like using the term samadhi.
This Prabhupada told when they're alive, to them.
When Vishnujan Swami was alive, but when Jayanand Prabhu had disappeared.
Okay.
Srila Prabhupada always appreciated Jayanand Prabhu, even though he did not say much.
Okay. Okay.
It was very much Shantaras kind of relationship between Jayanand Prabhu and Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, like he served Prabhupada very sincerely. Prabhupada always acknowledged his bhakti.
Jayanand Prabhu seems like means modern age man means what? Like he was working, taxi driving and
Everything.
yeah.
Jayanand Prabhu is like modern day equivalent of Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. Or maybe we can say a modern day equivalent of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Very silent service.
Okay.
He was
Thank you.
Anadapi Sunichain personified.
Where we can
Jayanand
read
Prabhu,
more about Jayanand Prabhu.
yeah, maybe one day we can have a special discussion on Jayanand Prabhu. So I have a lot of material on him. We can have a nice discussion on his life.
It will be great.
Jayanand Prabhu, actually, Jayanand Prabhu suffered a lot also. I mean, Jayanand Prabhu also suffered a lot from politics and these kind of things. He was harassed quite a bit by junior devotees also. But Jayanand Prabhu was completely indifferent. He was practically like a living example of a pure devotee.
Okay, Prabhu. Whenever you tell me.
Prabhuji, one lecture from Keshwanand Prabhuji was saying was about the last teachings of Srila Prabhupada, and in that lecture he said referred to Tamal Krishna Prabhuji's diary. Where can you get access to that diary?
Prabhupada's instructions, if you want, read his books. Prabhupada said, whatever you want to know, I have given in my books already. So it's just, because see, I'll tell you very honestly, the last instructions of Prabhupada are not very accurate. Many people who recorded Prabhupada in the last few moments were like kind of, having their own agendas also. So a lot of fairy tales have been built around what Prabhupada said. So books are very important. Books are of topmost importance. Then come the letters. Then you can refer to conversations. So like that. Because letters were recorded.
Yes.
Letters, morning walks, conversations, then Then even news conferences, all those stuff, they are very nice.
News conferences are the, yes, the conversations, right? The part of conversations, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Prabhupada gave direct some sessions on the directly live on TV.
ठीक है.
Those were also very pretty.
ठीक है. Thank you so much.
Hari Hari.
Okay, ji. Hare Krishna ji.
Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.